Hello everyone, I hope everyone is doing well. Hope your week is off to a good week so far. Thank you for joining me today. So today we're going to dive into GLP-1s. And for those of you that do not know what GLP-1s are, that stands for glucagon-like peptides 1 receptor agonists. Okay, you've probably seen the commercials out there, and you probably even know some people are on them. They're becoming very, very popular in the diet industry, weight loss industry, fitness industry. And today I'm hoping to clarify a couple of things on how you can take GLP-1s but also get long-term results. Obviously, these are relatively new into the market, so we still do not know the long-term effects. So I do advise if you are taking them, please obviously going through a doctor, but really doing your research diligently on the practice that you need to take in order to set yourself up for long-term success. Okay, GLP-1s I've seen are used more as a band-aid, and when people come off them, they have the rebound effect. And that's what we want to avoid. So hopefully by the end of this episode today, if you are on them, you've got some clarity on what you need to start implementing today that's going to set you up for success. Okay, so we're going to be talking about strength training, nutrition, and a few other things that you can take away and hopefully benefit from. So just to give you guys an overview, if you're not familiar with GLP-1s, what they do is they help regulate appetite, blood sugar, and digestion. Now, originally they were used for type 2 diabetics, but more recently they've been prescribed for people with weight problems, so people that need to lose body fat. Okay, so essentially they are the magic pill that's going to cure everyone. But everything's got trade-offs, right? And there's definitely trade-offs with this drug. I'm a trainer. I work with my clients with setting up new nutritional practices. I do not oppose to GLP-1s, providing they're used in the correct way. Okay, and for the correct reasons as well. I know, a lot of people that take them for the wrong reasons, more for aesthetics, when they don't even have a weight problem, they just want to look a certain way. But in some cases, GLP-1s, absolutely, they are incredibly beneficial. So we're going to dive into everything you need to know if you're taking them, okay? So this is more towards if you've got a weight problem or had a weight problem in the past, this may hopefully does apply to you. We're going to, like I said, talk about training, nutrition, and some takeaways that you can implement into your life today. So, like I just said, GLP-1s, what they do is they suppress your appetite and they slow down your gastric emptying. So essentially, you do not feel that hungry. Your appetite is severely suppressed, and like I said, you're not metabolizing food and nutrients the way that your body originally should, and your food noise is less. So finding you're less hungry, you're not thinking about food as much, therefore you lose weight, and it's kind of easy. But like I said, everything's got trade-offs, and when it goes too far, that's when you can start risking losing muscle. Your hormones can kind of go out of whack, along with a lot of other health issues. So what can you do to prevent all that? Well, that's what I'm hoping to help you with. So the risks when you take GLP-1s is your underfueling. Your appetite's suppressed, so you're probably not going to be eating as much. You risk losing muscle mass. So if you are someone that, say, you're averaging 3,000 calories a day, and your maintenance is 2,000 calories per day, you end up putting on a lot of body fat over the years, you start taking GLP-1s, all of a sudden your appetite is suppressed and you're barely getting in 1,000 calories. You're going to lose weight, 100%. You're absolutely going to lose weight. You will lose body fat. But on top of that, you're going to be losing muscle mass as well. Eventually, you'll see some stalled progress. Okay, so the scale will kind of stop shifting. And no matter what you do, how little you eat, it just doesn't want to move. And even if you weren't on GLP-1s, this would be the same scenario. Eventually you plateau, the famous plateau that we all try to avoid. You'll start feeling extremely fatigued just because you're not feeling your body and you've gone such a long time without essentially having enough calories coming in, so enough energy coming in. And when you do come off it, there is likely to be a rebound effect because there's not been any behavioural changes set in stone while you're on the GLP-1s. And this is something I coach clients with. I've had a decent amount of GLP-1 clients I work with, tremendous people, they see tremendous results, and I say it to them from day one, it's all about behavioural change. And our goal is to set them up for success. So when they come off it, they feel totally in control of their health and fitness. So, like I said, GLP-1s they're a tool. It's not a fix-all approach, unfortunately. Like I said, everything's got trade-offs. Okay, not to mention the financial trade-offs of this drug, but there's trade-offs in your health as well. Like I said, if GLP-1s used in the right way can absolutely be beneficial and life-changing for you. Okay, so first things first, let's start with the training. Okay, so if you are not already, you should be strength training. Surprise, surprise. So if you're someone new to the gym, I recommend starting off twice per week. So 2 training sessions per week, starting off at 30 minutes. Okay, focusing on compound lifts. So that's, squats, deadlifts, bench press, any type of machine. If you're new to the gym, I would recommend sticking to the machines. But doing some strength training, that means lifting weights. Okay. If you've been on GLP-1s for a while, you may feel like you're pretty fatigued and weak, which is very normal. Start at wherever you feel comfortable and just aim to progress from there. No matter where your starting point is, there's no set foundation of how much you should be able to lift. Just lift as much as you can and go from there. I've reiterated this before, but everyone is on their own journey. You're in your own body, okay, your own mind, and everyone's got their own capabilities. So don't compare yourself to anyone else, just start where you're starting at. You've got good intentions, and that's all that matters. So you're aiming for small progressive overload over time. Okay, so when I say progressive overload, week per week, month per month, aiming to progress more and more in the gym. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean lifting more weights. This can be having, adding an extra set or some more reps in, but just increasing your volume over time. Now, this can be tough because obviously if you're on GLP-1s, you're not eating enough anyway. So the chance of you eating enough to fuel your workouts plus, just day-to-day life is pretty minimal. So you may see small increases over time, okay? You'd be definitely different to someone that wasn't on GLP-1s, where they can change the nutrition and eat more to fuel their body and lift more. GLP-1s is going to be a little bit slower process. However, if you're new to the gym, it's not necessarily about the lifting weights. I mean, it is the practice of lifting weights. You're trying to maintain that muscle, but it's the behavioral change. You're setting up healthy practice so when you come off the drug, you've got that foundation and nothing changes. You continue showing up and you even progress more in the gym. Okay, hopefully you enjoy it as well. That's always a plus. You want to be able to enjoy it. When it comes to cardio, definitely limit the cardio. Okay, especially the high intensity stuff. So don't go out running or doing 30 minutes crazy on the elliptical. I recommend doing steady state, low impact cardio, such as walking. Okay, so anything that, is almost soothing. Like I almost like to view cardio or low impact cardio as soothing. Okay, so like I said, going for a stroll, focus on your steps, just increasing your steps here and there, just more movement. Okay, just getting your joints moving. Okay, the last thing you want to do is take GLP-1s and not exercise, because you're going to be losing muscle, unfortunately. Okay, and I hope that, I don't mean to scare anyone, but that is the reality, and I see it a lot in people, and it's tough. It's tough to see. It's tough on them. It's tough on their bodies, and when they come off it, they're it's frustrating for them because they've spent all this money, they've lost all this weight, and all of a sudden they're back to square one, possibly even worse. So definitely don't sleep on the exercise. Make sure, like I said, start twice a week, 30-minute strength training, and then just focusing on, 1 10-minute walk per day. That's your starting point, okay? Now, if you are someone that has worked out in the past, and then started taking them, don't change your routine, continue to strength train, accept that there will be a drop in performance, typically, just because you're not eating as much. And usually GLP-1s cause a dramatic drop in what you're consuming. So don't be too alarmed if your performance drops, but absolutely do not stop your strength training, okay? Okay, so moving on to nutrition. I'm trying to keep these episodes nice and short and sweet within the 20-minute mark, 20 to 25 minutes. So apologies if you found the last few episodes a little bit more crammed in, but moving on to nutrition. Surprise, surprise, the first thing you should do is focus on protein. And I don't particularly like to give my clients that are on GLP-1s specific targets per se. I do encourage them to start tracking just to give me a data point, and then I'll give them targets based off that. If I told someone that's on GLP-1 to eat 1 gram per pound of their body weight in protein, they're just not going to do it. They're not eating enough to get it in. And when I do that, it adds kind of more stress on them, so I like to just get them tracking, seeing what they're eating, and give them a target from there and just slowly increase. Okay, to get protein in, you need to get calories in, and when they're not eating calories, they're probably not going to be hitting their protein target of that 1 gram per pound of body weight. Okay, so I just view it as like, okay, if you're averaging 50 grams a day, let's try get your average up to 55, and just keep pushing it as much as possible. At one point, eventually it is kind of like, okay, they can't eat anything more than 80, and that's okay. 80 grams is still better than 50. So it's definitely it's a process like anything. It's not something you can force on people. You can't force people to eat, and especially when they're on these drugs, you can't force them to eat as much protein as someone who wasn't on them. A little advice that I give to clients when it comes to getting enough protein in the day is spreading it across more frequent meals. So rather than then just eating 3 meals a day, I might say, can we add in almost like a protein feeding, or 2 extra meals per day? And when I say meals, these meals are still very, very small. A meal can be a protein shake, which leads into my next point is typically, I'm pretty sure every single one of my clients that would be on GLP-1s, I get them on a protein supplement just because they're not eating enough protein anyway. And protein supplements, obviously, you can just drink them. It's easy on the appetite, and rather than having them eating, like a chicken breast, so definitely lean in towards the more liquid proteins. A few other supplements that I recommend for people is creatine monohydrate, and this is great just because it does help us produce ATP, which is your energy. It can also help retain muscle mass. So combine your strength training with adequate protein and creatine, you're setting yourself up for success. Okay, you're trying to maintain that muscle as much as possible, and these things will help. Creatine will store water inside the muscle. Okay, so, and it helps with your, like I said, your energy output. So you'll be able to push a little bit more in the gym, and you'll be able to have more energy as well. If you're someone that suffers with brain fog, whether or not you're on GLP-1s or not, creatine is a great resource. Like I said, that's the biggest difference I tell my clients that I noticed. It was in my mental state, no longer the 3 p.m. slump that I used to get, and especially when I'm working long days. Don't get me wrong, there's still days when I get it, but it's more like I can power through a little bit more. Okay. The next thing is electrolytes. Obviously, if you're not eating enough, you're probably not consuming enough electrolytes. So things like sodium, potassium, magnesium. So again, if you need to supplement it. Okay. But just making sure that you are getting, like, crossing your T's and dotting your I's with these, again, pretty simple practices is great. It's so underrated, and this is the behavioral change that will set you up for success once you come off these drugs. So like I said, when it comes to GLP-1s, or when it comes to anything, honestly, there's trade-offs, and a lot of people don't like to accept that. But even if you view your time, if you decide to dedicate, your time to, or you want to start working out, okay? The trade-off is your time. It's your energy. It's time away from Netflix, time away from drinking at the pub with your friends or whatever it is. But again, the benefit outweighs the trade-off. So if you trade your time to work out twice per week, the benefit is you're maintaining that muscle, and you're also having that behavioral change foundation, okay? And you're investing in your health, you're investing in yourself. That's the ultimate, that's number one. That's the pinnacle, okay? So just remember that GLP-1 absolutely has its trade-offs. They may seem like they're going to cure you, but you still have to get up and do something in order to have long-term success, okay? I ask people to consider their goals if they're ever considering going on GLP-1s, and what they want out of it. If it is weight loss, then that's fine. If their doctor thinks they're a good candidate for it, then I've got absolutely nothing against it. But I want you guys to look at, or if you are considering it, or even if you're on it, what really needs to be fixed, okay? Is it, like I said, your behaviors? Are you someone that is really stressed at work and you use food as almost like an emotional crutch? If you take GLP-1s, that stress and anxiety isn't going to go away. So that's something where maybe while you're on the GLP-1s, that's taking care of, you're eating less and your appetite's suppressed. But it gives you the opportunity to really focus on what needs to be addressed in terms of, okay, I'm anxious, I'm stressed all the time because of whatever it is. Okay, and you can address that. Okay, don't view GLP-1s as just a band-aid. Okay, otherwise, you got the risk of being on them for too long, longer than you need, and that's where you can really run into some health problems. So really analyze what actually needs fixing, and most of the time, if not all of the time, it's never the food that's the issue. Just remember that food is fuel. We are meant to feel hungry. We are meant to eat. Okay, food is not the issue. And this may rub some people the wrong way, and sometimes I find this quite hard to swallow, but we're not always the victim. There's sometimes we have to look at ourselves before we can start judging others or judging, the food industry or whatever else, is in our excuse book. 9 times out of 10, you got to look in the mirror and be honest with yourself of, okay, this is what's really going on and this is why I am doing this. It's not the fact there's fast food on every single corner. It's not the fact that, I'm not financially in a spot where I can buy all organic foods. Okay, sometimes it's I'm at capacity, I'm stressed out, I feel I don't like the way I look, or whatever the situation may be. So really give yourself some time to really think about what actually needs fixing. I did mention this at the start, but GLP-1s provide you for an opportunity to set new habits in motion. So if you are on them, or if you just started, if you've been on them for a while, view this as an opportunity. Okay, there's always an opportunity in every single situation we're in, every challenge we're in, there's an opportunity. GLP-1s provide you with that opportunity to really make some change in your life. Okay, so address the mental health problems that you've been suppressing for all these years. Address your relationship with food. Address your gym anxiety. And if that requires speaking to someone, a professional, then so be it. Who really cares? There's a stigma around, talking to someone. There's no shame in it at all. Okay, but really addressing these things, that's where true strength lies, rather than just suppress, because it's going to come and bite you in the arse eventually anyway. So just remember that most things, if not all things, stem from our mind. So if you need to change your behavior, change anything to do with your health and fitness, then it's all stemming from your mind. So working with a therapist as well as a trainer and a nutritionist. Like I said, this is your opportunity to really set the foundations in place. So when you do kind of phase off the GLP-1s, that you're not back to square one. You've almost got a new view on your life, your looks, your performance, finding balance in your life, really finding what truly matters, how you can navigate this into your life. So how can you keep strength training and, choosing healthy foods that nourish your body, getting enough sleep, staying hydrated, all these good things that are really going to make long-term difference. So just to kind of recap, I have no issue with GLP-1s at all. I really don't. Like I said, the commercials are kind of annoying, but hey-ho. But they absolutely have their place in the health and fitness industry when they're used in the right way. And you need to pair it with behavioral change. That's where long-term success is going to be. So definitely don't sleep on it. Really think about, if you're away to take them, consider what you really want to get out of them and what really needs fixing. If you're currently taking them, it is not too late, okay? All you need to do is just put a plan in place, okay? If you're really wanting to set up for success, put a plan in place, start strength training, like I said, twice a week, 30 minutes, get on some walks, and just prioritize that protein. I always recommend tracking your food. That's the best way you're going to learn. If you do need additional guidance, then like I said, I've worked with many GLP-1 clients before, so feel free to reach out and I can give you some tips on how to get started. I do online coaching. I've also got in-person training, but feel free to reach out even if you've got any questions. And I'm going to wrap up the episode there. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was insightful. And I just want you to know that if you are on GLP-1s, and even if you're not, you guys are stronger than you think. You'd actually be surprised when you actually put your mind to something and really sit down and analyze what needs fixing, where we want to go, what we want to do in life. You can absolutely do it. Okay, everyone's got the strength to do it. There's no one, we're all humans, so we've all got the same capabilities essentially. Obviously, we've all got our strengths and weaknesses, but everyone's got a discipline muscle. Everyone's got a motivation muscle. And my goal is just to make sure that you're constantly flexing those things. Excuse the pun. But make sure that you're just constantly putting yourself first, okay? And really analyze how you want to get to be your healthy self, where you're not constantly thinking about food, constantly worrying about training, constantly worrying about the scale, okay? We're not meant to live our lives in anxiety. So I'm going to leave it there. Like I said, please reach out if you have any questions with this. If you could leave a review, a rating, subscribe, and also share this, that would be absolutely phenomenal. I love seeing the podcast grow and just seeing, or hearing, I should say, good things about it, and also bringing more people into the circle, people that need help. Like I said, you never know, you sharing this might just trigger someone in a good way. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Have a great day, and I will see you guys next week.